for anyone watching, well, obviously we started with creating a podcast and the editing side of it, but also what we've done was the my social media pro program. To give everyone an idea, within that program there's 4 phases. So the first part is the personal brand builder. I'm big on personal brand. I think over time it's going to become even more massive. The next generation of millionaires and billionaires and wealth creation is going to be centered around personal brands, not big company corporate conglomerate logos and stuff like that. And then we do like an ideal client immersion. Then we do a content creation system, and then obviously we put in place like the frameworks of an offer and a sales system and all that stuff. And we dived into this stuff in great detail within the personal brand builder. So what's the mission, what's the personal brand. So through that process, can you talk a little bit about sort of not only what you got out of that, but how it's been sort of implemented within your system, basically?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't what I got. I think I thought it was much more sort of not frivolous, sort of the sort of niceties of, well, yeah, we need to do this post then and do it like that. So the actual depth we went into with the personal brand stuff was really, really useful, insightful for me because well, number one, it reminded me of my origin story, which sometimes you can get a bit disconnected from when you're focusing on so many other things. And then it really helped focus on the content that I want to produce and put out there because I I don't want to put crap content out basically just for the sake of the algorithm. Oh right, I'm going to do 2 posts a day, and it just be generic rubbish. And I think going back to the origin story and the branding, the personal brand really helped focus my attention on what I want to do, and then obviously actually replicating the 5 pillars of bliss in everything that I do. I think I don't know why I hadn't thought of that before, but in terms of both content and then ultimately when I'm delivering workshops as well, because I've got lots of activities and things that will be done through the workshops in person and online, but actually centering them all around the pillars makes the perfect sense now, which is something that I probably wouldn't have got to without having gone through the process. And then yeah, just the amount of content you can generate from one source. So like with the podcast, for example, we're breaking it down into the bite-sized chunks. Then we can get smaller clips for social media, and then everything builds around that. So I think I've finally got a clear strategy because I've tried things before where I like have Monday motivation, Wednesday wisdom, and I'm like, oh, I die inside a bit when I used to, like, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just wanted to post something, but I was like, I'm just adding to all the other crap that's out there, and I think understanding the difference between a value post, which is what you've explained to me, which is actually giving value, and then obviously the magnet posts that draw people in. That's something that's I've really learned a lot from. Um, and yeah, just having that overall strategy rather than just a sort of scattergun approach of, well, I'll do this today. And I think obviously I'll still hop on when things come, but actually having a clear strategy that people come to recognize as the brand, but in an authentic way, not a corporate way, so that it's getting to the right people. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? Finding your ideal client, and as you always say, you're looking for the former versions of yourself as your ideal client. And I think that's something again that I've learned, that yeah, because when I've done talks and I say what's happened to me, that's when I see people, the lights go on in people's eyes, like, oh, I've been through that. Yeah, oh yeah, actually, yeah, it would help me if I quit drinking probably, and things like that. So yeah, I think it's that overall strategy, but keeping it authentic, which is a key thing for me.
It's so nice. It's so nice to hear you say that as well, because that's like the complete idea of why I put that together. Um, because I was working with a lot of people, and it's very easy to get caught up in the thing of like build a massive audience, get a lot of likes, get loads of views, all that
Mm.
stuff. Which in the grand scheme matter. Like getting views on YouTube is going to matter. Like getting getting a big audience, it matters, right? Because you can't help anyone if you're not in front of anyone. Like
Yeah.
that matters. But it like the reason why I do it that way is because if you don't build up the personal brand in the right way, if you're not doing it in line with your values, if you're just throwing stuff out there to get attention, you're gonna get found out really quick.
Mm.
You're gonna get like people. You see people go up and then they come down really quick. And if you look at the big accounts now, like the Elon Musks of the world, the Stephen Bartlett's of the world, the Gary Vaynerchuk's of the world, the Mel Robbins of your idol Mel Robbins of the world, they've got such a strong personal brand that they can kind of, again, going back to framework, they can have a framework that people can go into at every level of awareness where she can help someone, right? And she can, let's be transparent about it, charge a premium for her closer attention, essentially.
Mm.
So if you want to get closer to her personally, it's obviously a higher investment price. Let's say using Mel Robbins as an example. So having that model is exactly why I do it that way, because one, it gives you the framework to obviously get people into your audience. But when people are in the audience, you're actually giving them something at every step of that journey, right? And then over time, if and when the audience builds and builds and builds, you're not becoming over-consumed by trying to help everyone at once. Because the last thing you want to do is grow by 10,000 followers and not have the system and the infrastructure there to cater to 10,000 followers, right?
Yeah.
And like you've seen it on post. You've seen the negativity. We know people who've had, their brands ripped apart by comments, and the comment section could be a brutal place, right?
Yeah.
People, discrediting them, all this kind of stuff, and it's quite a scary thing that you've got. Like, again, going back to bravery, you've got to be brave around. And if you grow a big following, you're going to get a little bit of that. Like, it goes with the territory. But actually, how can you navigate it? How can you navigate that world? And that's essentially why I built it. So it's really nice to hear you say that. And I appreciate it, actually. Because you, and it's the same thing. Like, I bought into Building Bliss. Like, I really get it. And I believe it's going to succeed. And it's the same thing the other way. Like, if you don't buy into that process, like, some people won't buy into the process. Some people will be like, well, I want to get 20,000 likes on a post every time. Okay, but what does that give you?
Yeah.
What does that actually
That's just vanity,
for
isn't
you? Right? Like,
yeah.
and this is where you'll see, like, accounts with 6-figure followings, 100,000, 200, 1 million followers, but they can't sell anything because you meet them in real life and they're like, oh, I'm not doing that well. And then you've got 1 million followers. Why?
Yeah, it's just influencers like, oh, I'm having a glass of wine here, and they're not. It's not really achieving anything in the world, is it?